Hi, everybody. This is Kara with Senior and Disability Services, and I want to welcome you to our webinar, our first live in-person webinar for our provider community. And just a couple of things before we really get started here. This is a group that is for any provider of our home and community-based waiver services. We are holding this once a month. All are welcome. We hope to have an educational piece, and we want to have some time for Q&A. So we're giving people a few extra minutes to come into our virtual space here. If you aren't familiar with joining us on webinars, you probably see a little, maybe it's a little red square with an arrow in the middle where you can open up a place where you can chat to us, or you can ask questions. It may say chat or it may say questions. That is how you would want to go ahead and interact with us. You come in a muted status, so you won't be able to share by voice, but you can share by text chat. So if folks could go ahead and make, find your chat area or your questions area and just throw in anything you want into that, say hello or shoot us a little note right in there just to see if you can open it up and text right into that chat area. So if you would give that a try. And what I'll do here is take a look, and I see that folks are saying hello. All right, good job, everybody. So that's how you'll interact with us. We do have an agenda for today, and I'm going to make myself the presenter. And hang on just one second while I rearrange things just a little bit here. Also, I'd like to introduce our team. We have myself with training, Delight Mells with training, Cassandra Lynch, also a member of our training team. We have Kat Sawa Lepinskas, who is with, she's actually our care coordinator support professional. And we have Anna Williams with our Living Well grant team, maybe team of one. So we're really glad that you're here with us today. So anyway, give me just a second and I'll open up my agenda. And our team, what we'll usually do is we'll have some time for Q&A, and you may see that we'll do questions and answers in the chat area itself. And so that's helpful when we can respond to you one by one. So if you write in a question, it's quite possible that we'll be able to answer it for you. And we would do that right there in that Q&A section. Okay, so let's talk about our agenda here. Still moving things around a little, so sorry about that. Okay, things to watch out for. We do have regulation training on regs pertaining to COVID flexibilities made permanent that we're developing right now. One of the things that we learned during the COVID flexibility time, which is still ongoing, is that certain things worked very well for people we serve, individuals and families, and for our provider community too. So regs were proposed and went through the comment period, and they were made into this reg package. Mostly the biggest thing to know is that keep an eye out for training specifically about that. We'll be doing that more towards the end of the PHE, which is public health emergency, which is still, again, ongoing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the end of the public health emergency. We do get a lot of questions and training about it. It kind of focuses around one topic within that. PHE is, of course, public health emergency. We do get a lot of questions about a POA, meaning a power of attorney, a guardian, or a parent being a paid provider. So there's lots of flexibilities that are allowed through the Appendix K and 1115 flexibilities. One of them is when a guardian or parent or person legally responsible is a paid provider. So we did have a couple of e-alerts that went out about that. People do ask us, hey, training team, when will that end? The answer is that our waiver flexibilities for Appendix K for waivers, they can be extended up to 6 months after the end of the declaration of the public health emergency at the federal level. Okay, so states can declare the public health emergency ended, and then our federal source can declare it ended. So it's still ongoing as of right now on the federal level. So we still have our, PHE ongoing, our public health emergency ongoing. We did have an e-alert that talked about the latest extension of it, and I have a link to it here, and hopefully I'll be able to open the link. Let's see if it's going to be nice and open for me. All right. This went out on October 14th, and so the public health emergency was renewed, and this happened effective October 13th. The PHE, assuming a 90-day extension, would run until mid-January 2023. And then it talks about Appendix K, okay? It doesn't mention 1115 here. And so to be more clear, Appendix K covers waiver services. So if you're a waiver provider, the flexibilities through waivers can be extended for 6 months past that, okay? If you're a PCA provider, personal care services, or PCS provider, the flexibility to pay a POA or a guardian or parent to provide PCA is different. It actually ends the day that the public health emergency is declared ended at the federal level. Okay, so it doesn't go for 6 months past, it ends on that day. And I'm going to open this here. This is the e-alert that went out about that. And we'll give you this document, so it'll have links and you can check this out too. We always encourage you to sign up for e-alerts, of course, and to read them because they're very helpful and they can help answer common questions like this, all right? And so this second one really goes over all of the different flexibilities, and it addresses personal care a little bit down. You have to kind of scroll for it, but it's right about here, personal care services, right around here, all right? And that tells about the end of that, upon the end of the declared end of the PHE at the federal level. Okay, trying to keep an eye on questions too. You are welcome to text us your questions at any time during our presentation, of course, and we'll do our best to answer. We have a couple more things to talk about here before we get to special topics. I wanted to let everybody know, or if you've been in webinars with us before, you may already know that we're hoping to have a info share for families coming. I know it says provider info share, but it really should just say info share for families. So this would be where families are invited to come to an info share just like this one, to answer questions and to ask questions, and to have an educational component as well. And so our first education for families we're targeting it to be, or planning it to be, about eligibility. So we do get a lot of questions from individuals and families about, how to become eligible, or how is somebody eligible for waiver services and PCS. Okay, so any of our services, how do people become eligible? We're hoping to train to that and then get some nice feedback from individuals and families in the process too. So look for that, and maybe spread the word, help your individuals and families that you serve know about it so that they could join us. We would love that. Okay, and so right before special topics, I wanted to mention that we have provider open office hours. So that is a Zoom link, and that is for any of our providers from any of our communities, um, waiver, any waiver provider, and or PCS provider to come to an open office hour with your training team. And that is where we can speak with you about anything. If you have questions about serving people, if you have questions about, the work that you're doing through as a certified provider, it's just another chance to interact with us in not so much of a big group like now. We are able to do breakout rooms within our Zoom. So if you wanted to discuss individual cases, you could think about that. It's every week. Okay, so Thursdays from 3 to 4, but not on Thanksgiving. And you would use this link to join. All right. So when we send you this resource, it'll have this link on it. And so hopefully you can save that and plan on joining us on Thursdays should you have questions and need our assistance directly from your training team and probably care coordination support as well as resources and time allows Kat to help out. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I am Cassandra Lynch, and I want to talk to you about settings training. So each one of you are a provider, and when it's time for you to be recertified, you will now have to take the settings exam again at each certification. So please go out, take your settings when it's time for your recertification. Do not do it like far in advance to say, well, I already done it, because they're going to look for dates close to your certification that you have retaken settings. Don't get it confused with CIR. CIR is every 2 years, and you will receive a certificate with CIR settings. You will not receive a certificate at this time for settings, but it's every time you have to do your a certification or recertification, okay? Guardianship. We will have a webinar coming up to talk about guardianship and POA documentations. It would be about what would SDS need to have on file for guardianships and POAs. So this will be 12 noon. Sorry, I can't see there. Okay, December 13th at 11 a.m. from 11 a.m. to 12 noon, and everyone is welcome. So for the care coordinators, this is worth 1 hour of CEH. For everyone else, it would not be a CEH, from my understanding. And here's the link that you can sign up for. The link is below. But please come out if you're interested in learning about what SDS would need to have on file for guardianship or POA documentations. Please follow us on YouTube for any training videos or updates. And here's our link to our YouTube channel. And please subscribe to e-alerts under SDS. You may have subscribed already, and if you haven't, or if you're not receiving anything, use this link so that you can subscribe. Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Cassandra. So my name's Delight, and I mentioned in the video recording the last time we had this that we were retiring the Uni 12, which is like we all commonly refer to it as the paper overview sheet, the one document to rule them all, right? We all look for the overview. That document is going to be changed. It's gone now. We're instead using a Harmony generated cost of plan report. Yeah, that's the new name. And it takes a while for people to let go of this, the term, right? So the word overview sheet, when we say that, and we're like, what overview sheet are you using? What's going on with this? Know that care coordinators are required to create a cost of plan report out of Harmony. And it's the same concept as before. It's an overview sheet. It's just developed in Harmony. And it's really a summary of the different services within a plan year. And its intention, it's one tool that's being used for multiple purposes. Its intention is to give an overview to the client of the services. Providers use it as a tool to kind of keep track of what are the units that we have, like what services and billing codes. SDS also uses it for processing the correct provider, the billing codes, and the units. So a lot of people use this different tool. What we want to make sure you understand is that when a care coordinator is putting together this summary, it's a little tricky in Harmony. When I say a little tricky, I mean it can be really tricky depending on what's going on with the case. Sometimes it looks like really, I'm going to show you an example of a clean overview sheet, and I'll show you a version of a messy overview sheet. And they're just learning objects. When we look at them, don't get too tied up with like, these providers wouldn't work together because they're not in the same locations. Like, don't worry about any of that. Like, just take it for what it is as a tool. Because what I want to show you today is what you should really look at and consider when you're looking at the overview, also now called a cost of support plan report. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to take over the screen, Kara. I'm taking over. Just give me a second. Sometimes it doesn't like switching between people, but we'll get there. Okay, can you see my screen? Oh, and someone corrected me. It wasn't the Uni 12, it was the Uni 14. Yeah, it's retired now. We would have thrown it a party, but paper doesn't eat cake, so we let it go. So it's gone, and now we have Harmony cost of support plan. And this is an example of a pretty straightforward one, right? Like there's just a few services. Let me see if I can try to make it bigger for you, if it'll let me. See if it'll give that option to me here. And when we look at this as a provider, please keep in mind that the care coordinator doesn't have a lot of control in how this is designed. This information is generated just by what is going on with the plan service. What is really important to keep track of is making sure that your agency's enterprise billing number is correct, especially in places where you're like a larger provider with multiple locations. And you want to make sure that the location you're selecting is accurate to who's serving the client, okay? So the location that's serving the client is the billing number that we see here. You're also really going to want to track your start and end dates, especially when we look at amendments. We have amendments where we end services and add services, and it gets complicated really quickly. As a provider, you can really help by making sure you're examining the start of the service. It may or may not start with the beginning of the plan. And the end, same story. It may or may not it may not match the plan dates, okay? So making sure that those are accurate, that the service is accurate. And then when we get to the units, this is where it's really tricky. A lot of strange things can happen here. In this example that I have, I went through and I entered the plan like it was a year, and it auto put in 6 extra units. do your care coordinator a solid and look for that, because sometimes it will just auto tune something like up, or it'll, depending on how it's been amended or changed, you might see that it gives like change. like units don't come with extra point blah 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 blah. You're expecting a whole number. Okay, so just kind of check for that as something that you can QC on this document if you're really looking to use this as a tool to verify information. I did skip over the rate, and I'll just tell you that right now the rates sometimes are a little funky depending on where you're located and the allocations with that. Whatever this rate isn't, I wouldn't say that it's locked in for the year. Things can change, and it's when the rate is when the service was delivered, okay? So if we have a rate locked in at the beginning of the year, and for whatever reason the rate changes, the unit's delivery date is the rate that will be allocated. So I want to caution you from taking this tool as a way to like project out like, oh, we have this many units, so we're going to make this much money in this time of year. I caution you against that for a couple of reasons. One is that it's just, I mean, you know, it's really hard to assume that every unit is going to get billed. People get sick. We don't have staff available. There are weather conditions that keep it impossible, you know, whatever. So we understand that we can't bill to the unit at 100% every time. Even though we're targeting that, right? That's why we're requesting it. But it just being realistic that 100% on it is just really not possible. So and that the rates could change. So we caution you from using this as like a tool to like develop out budgets like long term. Caution you against using it for that purpose. It's really just an at a glance summary. What do you really need to look at? I'll show you that in the support plan, but you know, here's this like clean, tidy version of like just a really simple overview sheet. They're never like this. They're usually really like, there's just tons of stuff all over them. And I really want to make sure that you're aware of one of the oddities that happen quite often, and that's related to our fiscal rate split and how it at the change of the fiscal year from June 30th to July 1st, that really messes things up in the system as far as finding the correct provider. So care coordinator will have to put in the same service twice to be able to put them to calculate for a full year. So in this example, I have an assisted living group home, and this is where we're really looking at the dates. And I have that 7/1, and I should also see that I have, you know, my May through June dates. So it has two separate segments for the same service, like a continuation of the service. So when we look at that as a provider, we kind of have to like recognize it's not that I'm having a break in service from May to June and then July to the end of the plan. There's no break in the service. It's that the rates changed and that everything in Harmony had to be switched over to a secondary line. So that's something that you will see. And you'll also see oddities in this case where we have maybe an original ALH, then we have the new ALH, and then we have the rate change. We can have the same service 3 times or more listed in the same overview. I know, clear as mud. Just take your time and really focus on the services that you're offering to the client. And the best place that you can really QC this information is in the plan itself. and looking at the frequency and durations that are listed in the support plan. So making sure that this information is accurate as far as how often, how often are you meeting, for how long in a week? Okay, so I'll say it slower. How often, for how long during a week to capture your units for weekly frequency and duration. And see, yeah, there's that 280. That's what I meant. But it auto calculated it up to 2086. Okay. The other area that as an ALH you'll definitely need to look at is making sure that everything, whoops, I skipped it. And I'm sorry if I'm getting you dizzy here. Everything within the table of for residential services is according to what you intend to deliver with the client and your plan for that. Okay, so making sure that it's person-centered to the client's needs and that you and your team can deliver to that. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I can tell you that the cost of support plan report is pretty funky. And there are times when you, as a care coordinator, may not understand why it's doing something or you didn't catch it. Please don't beat yourself up over it. Reach out to Kat with care coordination support and she'll help you look at it and determine this needs to be reported to SDS Harmony Help Desk because it could be an error, or it could be just a simple slip of the mouse and you just selected the wrong thing. But please don't struggle with it on your own. You're not alone. We're here to help you, okay? Are there other questions? Kat, I think you're kind of keeping track of what's going on in here.
I'm kind of trying to answer all the questions. Just kind of reiterating what Delight said, that the cost sheet, the cost of the support plan report could look a little funky, and it'll be a matter of time before we get used to saying that, right? It could look a little funky. You're gonna have words like "and" and "new" and other things on it, and that's one of the limitations of Harmony that we don't have any control over. Sometimes that column that says change could say things like "and" or "new" or I don't know what else. I've seen.
And those are
wonky.
it.
Yeah.
It gets wonky, and I was kind of fiddling with it with our messy case, right? And it didn't pick them up, and so that might be just because I'm working on a test case, so I don't want to say that it's broken. I don't want to say that it's broken, but I want you to know that this column, it's not reflective of the authorized amounts, this change. It's an at a glance summary. What is authorized is that those total units. So keeping your eye on those units, and review teams and SA teams will stop and correct some of these, especially the wacky ones where it comes in with a strange decimal. They'll fix them for you because we understand it's tricky. Anyways, anything else, Kat, that you saw that you thought should be shouted out on the summary of cost of, I'm going to say it wrong, cost of plan report?
That we won't be correcting any for rates or anything like that, that you should not expect amendments or anything like that submitted to us just to reflect the rate change. Providers
You'll get paid. You'll get paid based on the date you delivered the service. So if you delivered a service on June 30th, you'll get that rate. And if you deliver the same service on June or July 1st, you'll get the new rate. The reason why you're seeing these splits is that Harmony will not find the provider because of these date splits. And so it's about finding the provider for the service. It's not about, you know, how much, like, it's not about the money. It's about finding the service and the correct provider. Well, yeah, that's what I had.
Great. Thanks, Delight. Go ahead. It's good. We had a couple of good questions come in. Again, we're just hoping to, you know, get feedback between and amongst our provider community, because we all are working on support plans in tandem with the care coordinator. It's the care coordinator's work product, but it really helps to ease communications when we get some explanation out through the different changes and things like that. Okay, there's a question that says, are you going to hold us to those frequency and duration estimates? So the plan, even before Harmony, required a weekly frequency and duration for services. And the framework is thinking about over the year, because this is long-term services and supports. You know, we expect the person they have an eligibility for a year, they have a level of care for a year. So we want to see what that looks like for the person in order to approve that service for that person. And the plan tells the whole story. As far as holding people to frequency and duration estimates, that is really up to a number of factors. We know that staffing is difficult to find sometimes, and then sometimes people are just not ready or willing or able to engage in their services. So that is why a care coordinator can make an amendment and change the frequency and duration to a level that works better for the person. They can do that at any time. We know that it's not the, you know, one size fits all scenario, but that's how the services are decided upon. So it's a best projected, a best projection of how that person would use that service. All right. Okay, I don't see any other questions, and thank you for your thoughts. So you can write to us in the chat or question area. Absolutely. I am going to go ahead and change back to our agenda. And you should be seeing our agenda. Make it so that I can see it. All right. We had a quick update here regarding Harmony. We wanted to remind our group, that only certain providers have access to Harmony. We'll definitely be talking about Harmony, you know, output in these meetings, just because we work together with it so much. But as far as having access to case files, it's going to be care coordinators, personal care services admins, and long-term care facility. That would be like a nursing facility, because we also, you know, take care of that here at SDS. These are the only provider types who are going to be in Harmony with access to client files and or in Harmony at all. So no access to Harmony is given to other provider types. Okay. Just as a reminder, we do get questions like that. You know, when will my particular service provider type be given access to Harmony? There are not plans right now to give access to other provider types to Harmony. Okay.
There's a good question, Karen, Delight, if you guys have a moment to take a look, and I could read it. It says, if you have Oh, you want to read it? Go ahead.
No, go for it. You got it. Read it, Kat.
If you have so here's the question. If you have a PCS consumer and you get a note in Harmony saying the PCS will end, and they are getting the services, how do you write a note back to the person? So how would a PCS admin let SDS know that the person is receiving services?
Well, I would look at the note itself a little bit closer, there should be instructions within the note that would identify who you should respond to. Most workflows in the context of an incomplete or a closure will identify a staffer, like it'll identify a person that you should make a note recipient, make as a note recipient when you file a note. In the case that you're kind of identifying, typically they give you the note type that they're expecting it back with, right? They'll say, well, we need something like consumer documentation, and then a subtype affiliated with it, and then a note recipient as well. If the instructions aren't in the note, which, hey, it totally happens, you have a couple of other options you can do. You can reach out to the unit manager, or you could stop into the provider info share or the provider office hours this Thursday, and we'll look at your case and help you figure out what's going on. When it comes to closures, it can be pretty confusing, especially if the closure is for, in this case, it sounds very confusing, where they're saying that maybe they're closing because there's no PCS, but there is PCS. If that's the case, that sounds a lot more complicated than just resolving it with a note response back. You can reach out for help. We'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, and that's a good question too that just came in. It was recently communicated to our organization that Harmony is not a messaging platform and DSM should be used. If that's the case, can we get a list of appropriate DSM addresses for different types of issues? Yes, it really just has to do with the service type that you're providing. So I think we can get something like that together and send it out.
It's actually, Kara, since you're on the screen, do you think you
Sure.
could pull open our SDS webpage?
Okay.
And I can show you guys, this is the best of my knowledge what's been updated, but we can, we might need to change it now that we've had, did you guys hear we have a new commissioner? And we have a new commissioner, and that usually means that there's all sorts of changes that kind of shift suddenly. So be prepared for maybe us doing website updates for contacts. But Kara, when you have a chance to pull open the SDS website, in the top right corner, there is actually a like link to contacts. And it has a list of all the unit contacts and their DSMs.
See,
we do also have a list of just DSM contacts for applications and support plans that is pretty recent. I'll just have to find it, so we could probably email it out too.
So contact us right here.
Mm-hmm. Then if you scroll down, there's like a PDF here. Org chart, and there you go. There's a management organizational chart that kind of shows like the layout of who's who. And then if you go back, there was also more contacts listed there.
I think each of these pulls up an email address, but they were asking about DSM.
Oh, the DSM one. I thought they had their DSMs on here, so that may be something we need to suggest. Because you kind of need that, right? Because it's true. We do want to keep Harmony and DSM separated because these are client records. So if you're doing, sometimes you just need to do some deliberation, like talk it out of like, what do we need to do to get this to work? And it's better to take DSM because Harmony is really, it's a submission system where it's document submission, submitting documents and processing the documents. It's not a case management system. So
Kara or Delight, if they need to send a DSM, should they send a DSM to like a group, like say PCS at DSM, blah, 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 or should they try to find the individual person
It should be the
that they
general
need to
email
send it
address.
to?
It
Okay.
should be the general email address, or if it's a general question, then you could email the unit manager or one of the
Okay.
staff. But it should be a DSM sent to the designated email. So each unit and each kind of workflow has their own
Okay.
email address.
So maybe we should find each unit and make a list of each unit DSM so that we could provide for them.
I think that's needed. That's what I'm getting from this, because I
I
thought we
think I
had
just
it.
emailed it to you guys because I think we have it.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure we have it
Yeah,
somewhere. Just
we worked
not.
on that. We haven't probably shared it with people, but we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have
So
another question here as well. The next question is, we serve PCS and waiver, but it seems that only PCS notes will show on our notes tab. Nothing for our waiver clients. We have to search each waiver client for new notes. Will we be able to see notes for our waiver clients anytime soon?
no, it's been designed that way with the intention of keeping specific roles separated, because we wouldn't want different providers to respond to notes that are sent for their role, right? So a care coordinator is being informed that they need to take action for something. It would be really confusing for a PCS admin to get that same note. There's also some differences in how agencies are designed. So one care coordinator in a large agency, that one care coordinator gets the note. But in PCS admin agencies, you all kind of break it out how you want to. And so it's a different workflow. So it would be too much management for us to kind of blend them. And we'd also really hate for people to get confused as to what is their responsibility. This kind of segues into the most frequent question I get on this topic, which is, why can I see some of my cases but not others? And it really has to do with what services you offer. And if you offer PCS to a waiver client, you'll be able to see their case. But if you have another client that's just waiver that doesn't have PCS, you won't see their case because you don't have anything to file for them. I know, it's clear as mud. It's very confusing to track.
So I have a question for our attendees here. And I should have asked this before. Does everybody see the little hand that you can do to raise your hand? You can just, it's usually a little hand in a circle. So if you see that, okay, everybody sees it. I'm going to lower them. A couple of us hit them, which I think is great. You raised your hand. But I would like to see by show of hands how many care coordinators we have. So if you're a care coordinator, just hit that hand and I'll just take a look at and see about how many go up.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, cool. I'm going to lower them. So you'll probably see something that says the hand was lowered. How about a waiver provider without PCS? Anybody providing waiver services without PCS? Okay. Awesome. And I'm going to lower the hands. And how about PCS provider, with or without? By filtration, you would be without. Okay, great. All right. Anybody specifically providing group home or residential supported living, out of home residential? Awesome.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, great. I'm so glad that you're all with us here today. That's all I wanted to really know. Yeah, I think that we have our agenda. We've completed it, and really just our biggest. That's okay. Our biggest takeaway here is for you. We're hoping is your office hours. You know, we have those ready to go for you on Thursdays. We'll send you this document, which has links in it. You can email us at any time, sdstraining@alaska.gov. And I know that we're probably about 15 minutes ahead of the top of the hour. We're willing to spend this time to answer questions and, you know, anything that you have on your mind. It really is just like an open-ended thing. We kind of kept our agenda a little bit simpler, I guess, if you could say that Harmony has anything simple in it.
And then
But
you could always let us know if there's special topics you want us to talk about at future
Yes.
sessions. So you could use
sure,
the chat feature and maybe let us know, or email us if there's
I'm not
specific
crying.
topics you want us to talk about.
if you have
I'm
something
not
on your
crying with
mind
joy.
now, yeah, go for it. You can tell us what you would like to learn about here in this monthly forum. I know that we have a lot of, you know, things that are sort of current events and things like that that come to the fore. Um, and we'll do our best to, you know, have an agenda set ahead so that we'll have our educational component. But we certainly do welcome suggestions, and we're hoping to learn more from you in our office hours too about what we can best present to help meet your needs.
Right.
So
If you look in the handout section, I did put the agenda in there. So
Thank you.
if you could download it to your computer.
yeah, and if you're on a device that doesn't download files, that's okay because we'll email it to you. So if you see that handout there and you try it, a lot of times a phone won't do it because they just don't have the capability or the application. That's fine, or a tablet maybe. But if you can download it and you're at a computer, then you might be able to. So you might try that. Mhm.
Well,
All
awesome.
right.
Well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you. If you think of any special topics and it comes to you in the middle of the night, you're welcome to email them to us. You know, and we'll see if we can get guest speakers. That's something that we really want to try to do for you in areas of expertise or whatever we can do to help you feel more knowledgeable. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I see people are dropping off. So we'll go
Yeah.
ahead and we'll just close our session. You know, again, thank you for being here with us, and we appreciate you. And we hope to get to meet you more in our office hours too. All right.
All
So
right.
have a great
have a
rest
good
of the
night.
afternoon. Goodbye for now.